You have a pattern recognition glitch that has survived for millions of years. You're walking through a crowded street in 2026, surrounded by neon lights and digital noise, and your eyes suddenly lock onto a specific silhouette. It's not a choice, it's a reflex. Before you even consciously see the person, your lizard brain has already performed a trillion-dollar calculation. We're talking about the waist-to-hip ratio, or WHR. For thousands of generations, while our ancestors were dodging predators on the East African savanna, their brains were subconsciously running a high-speed diagnostic scan on every potential mate. They weren't looking for beauty in the modern sense. Beauty is a luxury of the safe. They were looking for a biological green light. To the primitive mind, a wider set of hips wasn't just an aesthetic preference, it was a survival broadcast. It was the original verified badge, an unhackable signal that this individual was equipped to carry the future of the species through the literal bottleneck of evolution. If you didn't have the software to detect this signal, your lineage likely ended in the dust 40,000 years ago. Chapter 1: The Obstetric Dilemma. Why did evolution make this so specific? It comes down to a brutal, bone-crushing trade-off called the obstetric dilemma. It's the ultimate evolutionary design flaw. As humans evolved to walk upright, our pelvises had to narrow and tilt to support bipedal movement. We traded the wide, stable base of our cousins for the ability to run long distances. But at the same time, we were becoming the smartest animals on Earth. Our brains were exploding in size, doubling and tripling in volume over a few million years. This created a mechanical nightmare, a giant-brained infant trying to pass through a narrow, upright pelvis. It's like trying to fit a square peg through a shrinking round hole. In this high-stakes game of survival, wider hips became the biological cheat code. They represented a slightly more forgiving exit ramp for the next generation. Men who were hardwired to find this trait attractive, who felt that dopamine hit when they saw that specific ratio, were more likely to see their offspring survive the trauma of birth. Over eons, this preference didn't just stay. It became the dominant pre-installed software of the human male brain. Chapter 2: The Hunger for Brain Gold. But it's not just about the mechanics of birth, it's about the chemistry of the brain itself. We often think of fat as just storage, but biology is more sophisticated than that. Gluteofemoral fat, the specific type of fat stored on the hips and thighs, is fundamentally different from abdominal fat. Abdominal fat is cheap energy. It's easy to store, easy to burn, but it causes inflammation and metabolic stress. Hip fat, however, is a high-security, long-term storage locker for omega-3 fatty acids, specifically DHA. This is what scientists call brain gold. DHA is the essential building block required to construct a human fetus's nervous system and gray matter. Evolution turned women with wider hips into walking nutrient reservoirs. A man's attraction to this curve wasn't just about looks. It was a subconscious search for a partner who could literally fuel the intelligence of his children. You aren't just looking at a shape, you're looking at the raw materials for the next Einstein. It's a 50,000-year-old hunger for high-performance brain fuel that still dictates who we swipe right on today. Chapter 3: The 7R Connection and the Wanderer. There's a reason this attraction feels so restless and intense. It's often linked to the same DRD47R gene, the explorer gene. This mutation makes the brain's dopamine receptors deaf, meaning the carrier needs a massive, high-contrast signal just to feel a reward. When a 7R carrier, a natural-born seeker, looks for a mate, they aren't looking for subtle signals. They are drawn to the most loud biological broadcasts. This is why the preference for the hourglass figure is even more pronounced in cultures and individuals that are highly nomadic or entrepreneurial. In the wild, if you were moving your tribe across a frozen tundra or a burning desert, you couldn't afford to guess about fertility. You needed a clear visual guarantee. The 7R gene and the WHR preference are two sides of the same coin. The drive to ensure the long shot of human survival actually pays off. We are the descendants of the men who were obsessed with these signals, and the women who successfully carried the brain gold across continents. Chapter 4: The Modern Distortion. Fast forward to 2026. Our ancient, savanna-tuned hardware is now being bombarded by supernormal stimuli. We live in a world of filters, surgical enhancements, and AI-generated imagery. We've taken a biological signal for health and fertility and overclocked it until the speakers are blowing out. In the wild, a specific ratio, roughly 0.7, signaled peak metabolic health and brain-building potential. But the digital world serves up exaggerated, glitched versions that our primitive brains can't help but track even when the logic is gone. This is the brain rot of the modern era. Our ancient survival instincts are being hijacked by pixels. We are still using 50,000-year-old software to navigate a world of artificial curves. This leads to a dopamine trap, where the signal is screaming at 100% volume, but the biological reality, the actual health and DHA storage, has been left behind in the dust. We're chasing ghosts in a digital hall of mirrors. Chapter 5: Beyond the Curve. So is it just about biology? Are we just slaves to our DNA? Not quite. Being human means taking these evolutionary glitches and turning them into something more. The attraction remains a ghost of the savannah whispering in your ear, but we live in a world where survival isn't just about the width of a pelvis or the storage of fat. Today, we build civilizations, we explore the stars, and we create art. However, understanding the why stops you from being a slave to the what. When you realize your brain is just looking for a signal of health, intelligence, and vitality, the mystery fades and the science takes over. We carry the history of every survivor who came before us in our preferences. Your attraction isn't shallow, it's a deep-sea dive into the very survival of the human race. You are looking at 50,000 years of successful cheat codes written in bone and chemistry. Go find your mountain, stay curious, stay restless.